Hello students, welcome to my channel again. I am Shubho Chakraborty, Assistant Professor of Swami Vivekananda Institute of Modern Science in the Department of Computer Application and Science. Today our topic is types of memory allocation. Basically there are two types of memory allocation in computer science. One is static memory allocation and another one is dynamic memory allocation. Now let's start with the static memory allocation. Static memory allocation is also called compile time memory allocation. When we allocate the memory at compile time, that type of memory allocation is called static memory allocation. It is also called static memory allocation because the memory allocation are always static. We cannot expand or reduce the memory during the runtime. Now we can discuss about the characteristics of static memory allocation. There are some specific characteristics for static memory allocation. The key characteristics of static memory allocation are: first, variables are allocated permanently. Allocation is done before the program execution, and variables are declared at the time of program writing. The another characteristics is memory allocation cannot reduce or increase during the runtime. Now the example of static memory allocation. Array is one of the popular example of static memory allocation, and the memory what we allocated during the program writing is also the static memory allocation. That means any variable declaration during the program is static memory allocation. Now the advantage of static memory allocation. The first advantage of the static memory allocation is simplicity. If we want to create a simple program, then we can use the static memory allocation. The execution time of static memory allocation is lesser than the dynamic memory allocation. So it is another advantage of static memory allocation. The cost of the program will be less if we use static memory allocation, and the complexity of the program will be reduced if we use static memory allocation. Now about the disadvantages of static memory allocation. The main disadvantages of static memory allocation is we cannot increase or reduce the memory during the runtime. So if we need more memory, we cannot increase them, or if the memory will not use, then that should be a wastage. Another disadvantage of static memory allocation is if we want to create critical program or the system program, we are unable to perform using static memory allocation. Now it is time to know about the dynamic memory allocation. Dynamic memory allocation is that type of memory allocation where memory allocation will allocate at runtime, and the memory is dynamic. That's why we can increase or decrease the memory as per user's choice. The main characteristics of dynamic memory allocation is the memory allocation will allocate the memory at runtime. So we can allocate the memory as per user's choice. That's why no wastage will be happen, and we can add more memory as we need. To use dynamic memory allocation, we need some specific function to allocate the memory. These are calloc, malloc, realloc and free. The example of dynamic memory allocation is linked list. Using linked list, we can implement different type of data structure. Now the advantage of dynamic memory allocation. The first and very important advantage of dynamic memory allocation is we can allocate the memory at runtime, so we can increase the memory or we can free the memory for other program. So no wastage will happen, or if we need more memory, we can allocate it. The next advantage is if we want to implement critical program, dynamic memory allocation is the best process to implement. Critical program, big program or the system program are very easily implemented by dynamic memory allocation. Every good thing has some disadvantages also. So dynamic memory allocation have some disadvantages. These are: the cost and the criticalness of this memory allocation is very high. The complexity of the program is also very high. We cannot implement easy program using dynamic memory allocation. The execution time is much more than the static memory allocation for dynamic memory allocation. We have discussed about static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation, and after discussion we can conclude that static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation both are very needed for programming. So we cannot say static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation which one is better. If you like this video, please like, share and comment. Press the subscribe button. Press the bell icon to never miss the update from my channel. Thank you for watching my video. I am Shubho signing off today. For more video, please stay tuned in my channel.